guys? Century Productions here. We are back on the table for the first shot of 2023. I've taken about 2 weeks off of my shots just to kind of reset the mind, get some fresh ideas, and I am back on the table here. I hope you guys had a great New Year's, a great Christmas. Hope you got everything you wanted, and hopefully a couple of you guys hit the lottery. Maybe that's pretty good. And if you did, send me a couple figures. Anyways, we're on the table with this shot. Like I said, it took 2 weeks off, so I had gathered a lot of ideas of stuff I wanted to shoot, and I was perusing some comics. I think I read Daredevil Born Again, and I came across this panel. You guys should see it on your screen right here, and it's still motion. Still motion is basically where they just draw in the same character multiple times in the same panel to kind of give the idea of him doing some kind of motion, either punching or running or something like that. So that's where I got the idea from for this setup. And then I had to kind of figure out what figure I had multiple copies of, and I initially went to this black suited Spider-Man figure. I just got a bunch of these figures when they first came out, kind of hoarded them a little bit. If you guys haven't gotten this figure, I apologize. I may have been the reason why you didn't get it. But anyways, I went with Spider-Man, and what we see Spider-Man in the comics, he has a lot of still motion moments in the comics, so I think it kind of worked out here. And then, of course, I'm working with a little cutout right here. I don't remember specifically where this cutout is from, but it says sock. I think it kind of works out well with Spider-Man punching the Carnage right here. The hardest part, I think, about this whole shot for me was trying to figure out what he was hitting. If you guys saw that inspiration picture I just showed you with Daredevil, he's hitting like 2 wood beams as he's like practicing martial arts, but I didn't have any props or anything like that that I could make work for this scene. And I knew I wanted to shoot it on the white background because I thought the black would really pop, and it was kind of inspired from the that inspiration I just showed you. So I wanted something like red or green. I didn't want anything that was white or black just to conflict with the Spider-Man. I thought red or green would just work out really well. So I initially thought the new Scorpion, retro Scorpion figure, but he was just really too hard to pose to get in there. So I initially went to this Carnage, which this is an amazing figure. I love this Carnage figure. And I don't know if I've ever shot this figure before, but I kind of maneuvered it to make it look like he's getting punched in the face here. Try to make sure I opened up some space underneath Spider-Man's arm and above his thigh so I could fit his arm in there and get his arm to kind of seamlessly fit in between both of those, because I wanted all of his extremities to be exposed and you could see and kind of fill up the space. And then I've got this cutout right here that's actually attached to the back of Spider-Man. I can show you guys, kind of ruin my whole setup here, but I've already taken most of the shots. Basically what I've done here, I don't know if I've ever shown you guys this, but what I've done here is I've tacked a clear piece of like something from a package. It's just a clear piece of plastic, and I've tacked it onto the cutout, tacked it onto his head. And what happens when you put it up against something that has a very like lit up background, like a white background or a yellow background, however you want to, whichever two you want to use. It's mainly those two that you have to use. Basically what happens if you push enough light into the figure and the cutout, it appears translucent on the other end, so you actually can't see that little clear piece of plastic anymore. It's a nice little photography trick. I think Alex Richardson was the first person I saw do that in ACBA, so we started calling it the Richardson effect, or the Richardson method, whatever you want to call it. But it's a very cool little trick that you can use. It is it's kind of hard to figure out and work around. I've done it enough times now that I know I just basically blast everything with light, and that'll end up working out and it'll be translucent. I've done it like 4 or 5 times now. So, but when you're first starting out trying this method, it can be a little tricky. You just got to play around with it, up your contrast pretty much as high as it goes. Make sure you blast everything with light, and if you get the right angle and you have the lights in the right position, it will appear translucent. Anyways, I've talked enough. First shot of 2023 still motion. I'm really liking this idea. I definitely want to do more with still motion in the future. The only shitty part about it is you have to get like 3 or 4 copies of the figure that you want to use. So yeah, pretty cool. Let's check this out though. Alright, so I'm back on the table with this Daredevil figure. This is from the 3-pack. That's on the, the Renew Your Vows body. It's pinless. And dude, I really love this Daredevil. I've already said that. I've just got so many goddamn Daredevil ideas and cutouts that I can use for Daredevil that I'm just going to start trying to go through them. I mean, we haven't had a Daredevil figure that's this cool in a really long time, so it's definitely been giving me some inspiration to do some cool stuff with it. I forget which comic I got these cutouts from. I think it was the 2017 Daredevil run. I can't remember who wrote that one or who the artist was, but I really liked this quote. I'll just pick and pull quotes from certain comics that I think will make really cool cutouts, and then I'll just basically export them into a Word document and then print them out and then cut them out. It's simple enough. It's nothing really too crazy. This is exactly how they're seen in the comic. I've just attached them to the figure in a particular way. And then of course we're working with the background here. We got the 11x17 poster. I've printed out multiple of these little comic book kind of backgrounds over the last year or so. Not with any real use or purpose other than me kind of shopping for the background I kind of want for the vibe of the picture I'm shooting at that particular moment, and I thought this one fit the scene very nicely. Got the water towers, got a building, and then we got this huge skyscraper. Maybe that's the Kingpin's skyscraper or something, this in the background right here. So I think it works out pretty nice. In order to get that nice blur on that background, you got to make sure that you're using a lower f-stop. And I do have a couple lights that I am using to light the background right here. I've got these two right here, but they're not very close to it. I've mentioned this before in the past, or you don't want the lights too close, otherwise you wash out your background. Kind of move them a little bit further away. And it illuminates them, but it doesn't like wash them out too much to where they look overexposed in your picture. And of course this is a nighttime scene, so we want to do kind of give it the feeling that it's lit up but not too much, and give it kind of that nighttime kind of vibe. Working with a minimal amount of lights. Got this light right here that's hidden behind him because of the angle. I'm shooting upwards towards the Daredevil right here, and this is giving him some backlight, some crotch light right here. Not that I really want the crotch light, but just kind of ends up working out that way. Then I also have another light right here. This is the light bar. If you guys have watched some of my other videos, you'll notice that sometimes I have something at the bottom of my setup that's lighting the background. That's what this is. It's just a white light that's portable. You just recharge it. Works really nice, and you can see if I move it out of the way, it kind of doesn't light the bottom of the background there, but once I move it into frame, you can see it illuminates it a little bit more. You know, in cityscapes and stuff like that, you'll notice that most of the lights are at ground level, and as you go higher and higher up, the lights kind of dissipate, so kind of gives it that feeling a little bit, and actually kind of shows a little bit in this background as well. And then onto the Daredevil, like I was talking about, we were using the cutouts. These are just kind of tacked directly onto him on the side there. See that little blue tack that's holding it up right here, and one's on his elbow, another one's on his knee right here, and then this contraption on his feet is to kind of help him stand up a little bit better. In this pose, his feet will not fully touch the ground. They won't be like flat-footed, so you kind of have to have him on his tippy toes. But when you have a setup that's kind of like this intricate, you can't really trust that he's just going to stay balanced there, because he can fall, and then when he falls, he's going to knock over one of these cutouts. Something bad's going to happen. So basically what I've done is I've kind of tacked him, cemented him to this little, it must be a popsicle stick or something, I don't know. I had this just lying around in my like little junk drawer, but kind of just cements him in place, makes it so to where he doesn't fall over. And because of the angle of how I'm shooting upwards, you actually don't see it at all, which is really cool. And that's another cool thing about this being back here as well, this light, is because of the angle, you don't see any of that other stuff that's kind of working behind the scenes, which is pretty cool, you know. And then what happened is I got a couple of these little lights right here that I have pushed upwards to kind of illuminate these two cutouts right here. And what it's done is it's done like this really cool, it's given him like this really cool like glow on just his head, so you can see his horns. And this Daredevil is such a posable figure that I can actually get him in a crossing his arms pose, which I don't think I've been able to do with any other figure. So that's pretty incredible just on itself. But then you add the cutouts and then you add the lighting from below, and it just illuminates kind of his horns and his legs, and it darkens certain areas. Of course, he's got his arms over his chest, so you can't see any of the light hitting his chest. So this is kind of like a happy accident kind of situation where I was just kind of playing around with the lighting, and it kind of just gave this really cool like glow. And then of course I've got my little light right here. This is my LED desk lamp that I use to do rim lighting on most of my figure shots. And basically what I'm doing is I'm just illuminating the top of his head. Maybe it's like the moon illuminating the top of his head, or who knows. You still want to get a little bit of rim lighting on just the top. At least that's my preference. In some shots you don't have to do that, but what this light also does is it kind of illuminates a little bit of the top right here. So lots of lights, kind of not really focused on any one area, just all the lights together as a team are illuminating the entire scene. And then these two little lights down here are doing their job of lighting up the cutout, lighting up his face, and giving off this really cool light. So overall, I really do like this setup. I think it's very cool. Obviously, the framing is going to be like this, but it's got like a cool mood lighting. It's got a really cool figure, I think a really cool quote, and it's clearly legible and it's lit properly, but it also gives off this like kind of moody lighting. So overall, I'm very happy with this. This feels very much like a comic book panel to me, which is usually what my goal is for every shot, is to get it to simulate a comic book panel, kind of like it jumped right out of the page. So let's check this out. Alright, so I got a little setup here. This is kind of a bigger setup than I normally do. I'm using this little diorama that I made probably about 3-4 months ago with some extra foam that I had. I've always wanted a wall that has, like, you know, that's been broken open. You'll see a lot of people have dioramas like that. Very classic diorama, and I saw a couple online and I was like, man, these are just way too expensive, and I just figured, you know what, I think I could probably do this. I'm not really super big into making dios, but I could do like concrete, you know, some concrete work, and I can paint it gray and do a slight little wash and stuff like that. So figured I'd give it a go, and I was able to make this out of it, which is pretty cool. I used this for a Batman shot a few months back. So basically the idea here is this is like a prison breakout. I think this was probably inspired by the new Avengers #1, where, you know, everyone breaks out of what's that prison that they have out on the ocean? I forget, the Raft, where everyone's breaking out of the Raft. I think it's the Raft. And I used a lot of these Legion figures. This is the Legion figure that came with the AOA Colossus Build-A-Figure. And I noticed online that they were only $12 each, so I picked up a couple more of them, so now I have 3 total. Obviously one of these will probably end up being Legion eventually, but it's always cool to have like little outfits like this. It reminds me of like an inmate outfit, so that's probably why I got 2 of them. It was only like $24 plus like $3 shipping. I was like, man, that's a pretty good deal for these bodies. The only problem is they're only white dudes, so it'd be cool if, you know, you can have like a black guy, or maybe a little bit darker skin, like a Latino dude or something like that. So just a bunch of white people escaping this prison apparently. But I was able to use some extra heads that I had lying around. This is the arcade head. This is the extra arcade head right here. So it pops onto the body and the skin tone matches pretty well. This is the new Bullseye head from the Daredevil 3-pack, and this fits really well on this body. And, you know, Bullseye's been locked up a million times, so it works out. And then way over here, I've got the old Chameleon head on this body. So it's just like kind of they're kind of all strolling out at the same time. And when I was making this diorama, I also had some of these pieces just, well, I obviously had to make the hole, so then I also took those pieces that I smashed out and made them look like they were brickwork, and they were being smashed out, so I could use them as like accessories. So it worked out pretty well here. I really like how this is turning out. It's kind of like a night shot in the back, way back here. Sorry if you hear me walking around, I hear my floor creaking. This is black felt, and the cool thing about black felt is if you have lights pointed at it, for the most part, it doesn't reflect light, so it'll still show pretty much pitch black, which is kind of the feeling we're going for. We've got the fence back here. This is just like a little 1/12 scale 3D printed fence I got off eBay a while back. Multiple lights. I'm working with some lights over here. You'll see I've got this panel light right here. And of course I've got my little Ulanzi. This is orange. I figured it, it'd be kind of cool if you just kind of place a little orange light right here. Maybe something exploded inside and it pushed, all this debris outwards. Or I know for the story, people will probably wonder like how this happened, but I'll just leave that up to the viewer's imagination how the wall was broken, and we'll just show these guys strolling out. And I think this is pretty cool. It's a nice little shot. I got to use these Legion bodies. I've always wanted to do something with like prisoner, like breaking out, something like that. I think it's pretty cool. So fun little idea. It's a fun little setup, and I think in the future I might set something up else like exactly how this is and do another shot. It's just like too cool, man. There's so many uses you can get out of just the punched hole right here. You can have people breaking in, people being thrown out, all kinds of stuff. So it's very cool. I really like the shot. I think it's cool. Alright, I got a little Kingpin set up here. I'm a little sick, but that's not going to stop me from trying to get some awesome pictures in with some cool cutouts. What we got here is a Kingpin. He's got a couple cutouts, I believe, from Daredevil Born Again. And I really like these cutouts. I don't know if you guys will probably be able to read them from this far away, but basically from the top going down it says, "He is the Lord of Crime. He has gathered the warring gangs of the city, organized them into an army. No, a business so efficient and so profitable, but that the city's economy depends on the thieves, extortions, and murderers at his command. He is the Kingpin, and Matthew Murdock has become the light of his days." Basically, it's just kind of like a little, I don't know, like just some cool lines that kind of give you an idea of the Kingpin and who he is and how he has control over the city. I just thought they were badass lines. So basically, I was throwing around ideas with how I was going to put these cutouts on the figure. And, we've gotten 2 Kingpin releases. We've got the all-white that you see here, and we've also gotten the retro Spider-Man. I think I wanted to go with the all-white just because I feel like the all-white Kingpin is more like OG to the comics as opposed to the retro. Both great figures, both exactly the same figures, just different paint applications. But so yeah, I went with this one, more OG Kingpin. I've always liked the full white better anyways. And basically what I did here, this is pretty cool. I've been kind of kicking this idea around for a while. I think I saw Crunchy Cheeto Creations. He's on Instagram. He does a bunch of cool pictures. I think I saw him make like a glass panel that made it look like the outside or the inside of a skyscraper window. So I kind of went with that. And basically what I've done here is I've just got a piece of glass. This is actually the piece of glass I use for most of my glass technique shots. And it actually just broke while I had it in storage. I don't know if you guys can see this, but it's just shattered right here. But I didn't really need that much of the space in order to actually use it. I just needed like a little spot. So basically I've taken this glass and I've just cut little strips of poster board. Made sure they're as even as I could, just little strips. There's 3 strips. Basically just put one right here, put one right here, one right here, and then put one right across the bottom. And it kind of gives the illusion that it's like he's standing in the inside of a skyscraper and he's looking out onto the city. And that was kind of the idea I initially had when I wanted to use these cutouts right here. Then the second idea was, or the next problem to solve was, where do I put the cutouts on him? So I initially thought, oh, there went his cane. I initially thought putting him on the front, but I just thought it looked so much more badass if he was looking out onto the city, especially since we've got this little window here that we've just created. So basically I've just taken blue tack and put it on the back of each of these little pieces of cutout and just attach them to his back. And it's really important when you're doing that, if you guys are into photography, that you keep all the cutouts on like the same level. That way they all come in focus, because if you have them at different ranges, like one's further back or one's further forward, sometimes the focus gets lost between one of the cutouts and the other cutout. So basically have them all at the same range right here, just put right onto his back, because his back was just completely open. It was almost like a blank canvas for something to be put on there. So that's basically what I did here, and I just put the cutouts right on there. I got him looking out at the city. We've got our trusty little 11 by 17 poster back here, just of the city. I have quite a few of these, so I kind of went shopping for which one looked coolest. And of course, it's got to be in New York. You know, what is this, the Chrysler Building or Empire State? I don't really know, but it's one of those famous New York City buildings. So obviously, this is New York. He's looking out onto the city. I think it's dope, man. I really like this shot. I really like what I did with the little window here. I think it works. I think it really does work. So, and then another thing, real quick, before I show you guys the actual picture, another thing I wanted to make sure that I got down was I have these two lights situated to the right here. These actually aren't to put light on the cutouts themselves. I have two lights right here that are to put light on the cutouts. This is actually to drown the light from behind the cutout a little bit. And basically, when you're pushing light from like right here onto the cutout, it's going to create a shadow on his back. So what these lights do right here is those help kind of drown out that shadow, so there's no shadows from the cutouts. You know, because if you actually look at a comic, when they put the cutout in there, the cutout's added after the artwork. There's never any shadows of the cutout or anything, so I want to make sure that I carry that on to my actual shot here as well. So I'm putting light behind the cutouts and in front of the cutouts, so that it all just kind of seems seamless, I guess. So that's basically what these are doing right here. And I also lowered my contrast because the figure was coming out a little bit too white, and it was making the picture look a little overexposed. So I lowered my contrast. I upped my saturation, and I actually also had to watch out for reflections, because you know, if you're working with glass, you put a light right here, you're gonna see it in the reflection back here. So something to keep in mind. Anyways, cool Kingpin shot. I thought this was pretty dope. I love this little cutout. I love the color of the cutouts, and it's awesome. So let's check it out.